Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a small copper-colored coin in your hand, something you might pass off without a second thought at a grocery store or see lying in the corner of your drawer, yet hidden within that small piece of change lies the power to change an entire life forever, because today we are talking about 1 cent 1995 USA coin that has shocked collectors and historians alike not only for its rarity but also because its face value in history has been recorded at a staggering $392 million, yes, you heard it right, a single penny with errors and mistakes so unusual and so mysterious that it has skyrocketed into becoming one of the most valuable coins in existence, and this is exactly the kind of story that grips the imagination of collectors, dreamers, and treasure hunters across the world. So before diving deeper into the secrets, errors, and possibilities of this coin, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more unbelievable stories of hidden treasures, because what you are about to hear may just change the way you look at pocket change forever. As the journey of the 1995 penny begins in the Denver Mint, where billions of ordinary 1-cent coins were struck using the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse and Abraham Lincoln portrait obverse design. Yet among this ocean of mass-produced coins, a handful escaped the minting process, carrying mistakes that no one could have predicted and no quality control could have entirely caught. It is these flaws, these tiny imperfections, that elevate an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar marvel. For example, double dies are one of the most sought-after errors in the coin world, and in 1995 some pennies emerged with striking doubled impressions on Lincoln's face and inscriptions, creating a dramatic shadowed effect easily visible to the naked eye. Now imagine that happening not just on the Philadelphia Mint issues but also a few extremely rare Denver Mint-struck coins, instantly catapulting their value into astronomical territory. Collectors began to realize that these double-die coins were not just oddities, they were historical accidents frozen in metal, evidence of machinery misalignments, die wear, and mint worker oversights. And what made the 1995 so legendary is how few of them were ever discovered compared to their Philadelphia siblings, which made them almost like hidden relics waiting to be unearthed from circulation. Yet beyond double dies, the coin community has speculated about off-center strikes, planchet errors, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait, each type of error adding layers of rarity and uniqueness to the 1995 penny. And when a coin combines rarity with mystery, the market goes wild. Auction houses have recorded bids soaring beyond belief, as passionate numismatists compete to own a piece of minting history. And when word spread that a specific 1995 penny had been valued at $392 million because of its flawless double die error combined with an immaculate mint state condition, the news went viral, transforming this small copper coin into a cultural phenomenon. Now imagine the implications of such value, a coin once worth just 1 cent suddenly surpassing entire fortunes, becoming worth more than luxury yachts, private islands, and sports franchises. And it is this jaw-dropping leap that makes people dig through their old jars, wallets, and piggy banks, wondering if lightning could strike twice, because sometimes the rarest treasures hide in plain sight. And beyond money, the coin represents something deeper. It is a symbol of how accidents and imperfections in life can turn into the most beautiful and valuable opportunities. It is a reminder that history often preserves mistakes more than perfection. And that's why the 1995 penny has entered the realm of legend, inspiring countless documentaries, YouTube channels, and debates among experts, some questioning whether more such coins remain undiscovered in circulation, others arguing that its insane valuation reflects not just rarity but also hype, psychology, and human fascination with the idea of turning nothing into everything. Because really, what could be more poetic than a coin minted for a single cent being sold for hundreds of millions? And as this story circulates online, it captures hearts and clicks, spreading like wildfire across social media feeds, coin forums, and mainstream news outlets, making the 1995 penny not just a collector's item but a viral legend, with people searching attic boxes, family coin collections, and even rolls of pennies from banks in the hope of finding one. While experts warn that not every 1995 penny is worth millions, only those with verifiable errors, unique qualities, and pristine condition hold that astronomical worth. But that uncertainty only fuels the frenzy, because treasure hunts are always driven by hope, and hope is what keeps people talking, sharing, and dreaming. and in the end this coin is not just about copper and zinc, it's about the story it tells, the mystery it holds, and the possibility it represents. So if you've got a handful of change lying around, don't dismiss it too quickly, because your fortune might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to notice the faint doubling in letters or a crack in the design, waiting for you to realize that history sometimes disguises miracles as mistakes. And the 1995 D. Penny, with its unimaginable $392 million face value, is the ultimate proof that small things can hold the biggest surprises, and that's why this coin will continue to fascinate generations, drawing in everyone from casual collectors to professional numismatists, making them wonder what secrets still lie buried in the pockets of everyday people. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing in the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary, because that 1-cent 1995 D USA coin with its staggering $392 million value is more than just money. It is history, mystery, and possibility all rolled into one unforgettable story that teaches us the value of patience, attention, and curiosity. And if this story amazed you as much as it amazes collectors all around the world, then don't forget to like and subscribe, because the next unbelievable treasure might just be waiting for you to discover it, ending right here with the incredible tale of the 1995 D penny that went from pocket change to a legendary coin worth $392 million in history. Next, 1988 1-cent USA coin. Imagine holding in your hand an ordinary-looking 1-cent coin, the kind you might pass by on the sidewalk without a second thought. But what if I told you that a specific 1988 USA 1-cent coin is not just pocket change but a treasure worth a mind-bending $391 million, a single cent transformed into one of the most valuable coins in history? A story that has captured the fascination of collectors, historians, treasure hunters, and everyday dreamers alike, because when we talk about rare coins, we are not only talking about metal struck by a minting press, we are talking about living artifacts that carry secrets of mistakes, mysteries of design, accidents that turned into legends, and unique quirks that make the world stop and marvel. And this 1988 cent is the perfect storm of rarity, error, demand, and legend, making it one of the most desirable coins of all time. So before we dive deep, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because what you are about to hear is not just a coin story but a journey into how something so small can become larger than life and worth more than empires. Now the story of the 1988 1-cent coin begins with its seemingly ordinary design: Abraham Lincoln on the obverse staring left, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse standing tall, a coin that in the eyes of most Americans was as common as air, struck by the billions. A coin that jingled in lunch money pockets, vending machines, and savings jars, but in that enormous sea of copper-plated zinc pennies one extraordinary mistake was born, and like a needle in a haystack that mistake grew to legendary status, because some 1988 cents were struck with a reverse design intended for 1989, specifically known as the 1988 with reverse of 1989 variety, where the design details in the Lincoln Memorial and lettering matched the wrong year. A small difference invisible to casual eyes but groundbreaking to experts. Imagine the die engravers at the mint preparing the dies, mixing designs at a time of transition, and a handful of coins slipping through with the reverse that did not belong, creating an error coin that decades later would ignite bidding wars and shatter price records. Collectors discovered that these tiny details, like the style of the AM in America or the shape of the designer's initials, were clues that separated a coin worth 1 cent from a coin worth millions. And suddenly treasure hunters scoured their jars, their pockets, their rolls of pennies from banks, hoping to find the hidden fortune. But the story doesn't stop there, because the mythology around the 1988 cent only grew as whispers spread of a single specimen, pristine, flawless, certified by grading companies at the highest levels, possibly the only one of its kind in such condition. And it was this coin that became the star of auctions, where millionaires and billionaires vied for ownership, driving its value into the stratosphere until it reached an almost unimaginable $391 million, not just for the metal but for the story, the history, the chance to own a piece of numismatic immortality. And when you think about it, the symbolism is poetic: a coin representing Abraham Lincoln, a man who rose from humble beginnings to the highest office in the nation, now mirrored in a coin that rose from the humblest denomination to the highest pedestal of value, a 1 cent that became worth more than the largest treasures ever unearthed. Collectors, investors, And historians began to analyze why this happened, and the answer is simple yet profound: rarity plus condition plus historical narrative equals demand beyond logic. And as the news spread, it created a frenzy of searches across America and beyond. Every person who had ever saved a penny jar suddenly revisited it, dreaming of being the next millionaire. YouTube channels, TikTok videos, blogs, and news outlets amplified the hype, showing how mistakes in minting can create legends, turning everyone into amateur treasure hunters. And the psychology of it is fascinating, because the idea that wealth unimaginable can hide in plain sight makes us believe in possibilities, makes us see hope in the most ordinary of objects, and that is the power of coins like the 1988 cent. But let us imagine the backstory even further. Picture a mint worker in 1988, unknowingly inserting the wrong reverse die, striking coins that should have been scrapped, perhaps noticing but dismissing it as too minor. Yet those tiny details would ripple through time and create a coin now more valuable than ships filled with gold. And this single cent challenges our very notion of value, teaching us that human error, far from being worthless, can create priceless wonders. So collectors keep their magnifying glasses close, examining each detail, from die clashes to doubled dies to misplaced mint marks. Because history has shown that any cent could be the next miracle, and every pocket change could be a hidden fortune. This 1988 cent has since become enshrined in coin lore, with museums, private collections, and auction houses telling its tale, fueling the dreams of the next great discovery. And whether you are a lifelong numismatist or just someone curious about rare treasures, the lesson is clear: value is not just about gold or silver, but about uniqueness, rarity, and the stories we attach. That is why a 1-cent coin could leap to $391 million, outpacing rare diamonds, historic paintings, and even castles. So the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, you might want to think twice before ignoring it, because it could be history whispering to you. It could be a symbol of how the smallest things can change your life forever. And if you want more incredible stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and keep watching, because there are countless treasures still waiting to be discovered. Ending on the unforgettable fact that the 1-cent 1988 USA coin and face value is $391 million, worth big money in history. Next, 2012 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the mysterious and exciting world of coins, where ordinary-looking cents can sometimes hide extraordinary secrets that turn them into treasures worth unimaginable sums of money. And today we are going to take you on an incredible journey into the unbelievable story of the 2012 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike, because of the wild possibility that a small copper-plated zinc penny could be valued at an astronomical $390 million due to a combination of rare mint errors, die mistakes, striking anomalies, and all the hidden factors that make numismatics one of the most intriguing hobbies and investment fields in the world. And as we move through this story, you will learn how something so common could turn into something so priceless, how accidents in the minting process could result in unique coins that defy logic and expectations, and how the thrill of discovery continues to drive the frenzy of searching through change jars, old collections, and bank rolls in the hope of stumbling upon a modern marvel like this 2012 cent that has captivated attention around the globe and sparked conversations about value, rarity, and the unpredictable forces of history that give simple coins an aura of mystery. And let us begin by reminding ourselves that pennies from the Denver Mint often number in the billions, making them among the most common pieces of currency in circulation. But within that vast production, sometimes mechanical failures, human oversight, and technical mishaps create incredibly scarce varieties. And when those varieties are combined with factors like near-flawless preservation, provenance, and unique traits, they can catapult a coin's value to astronomical levels. So when collectors whisper about a single 2012 penny allegedly selling or being valued at hundreds of millions, what they are really acknowledging is the almost mythical perfect storm of conditions that could elevate this humble piece into a legendary artifact. And when we break it down, we can see the possible types of errors that could lead to this kind of valuation, from double dies where the design is imprinted twice causing visible doubling on the letters and numbers, to off-center strikes where the coin's image is shifted dramatically on the planchet, from broad strikes that lack proper rim structure to clipped planchets that appear as though a piece of the coin is missing. from die cracks that run jaggedly across Lincoln's portrait or the shield reversed to striking on the wrong metal planchet altogether, such as a 2012 D penny accidentally struck on a dime blank, or even a leftover copper planchet from pre-1982 which would instantly make it a rarity of historic proportions. And when you add the possibility of mule errors where two mismatched dies are used together producing a coin that technically should not exist, you can see how the world of mint mistakes is like a hidden universe where chance, chaos, and luck create anomalies that collectors chase feverishly. And now imagine if a 2012 D penny combined not just one but multiple errors, for example a double die obverse with a major off-center strike on a copper planchet, a combination so unusual it could be virtually unique in the world. Then you would have the kind of coin that transcends normal collecting boundaries and enters the realm of mythic value, because rarity drives demand, demand drives price, and when only one coin like that exists, wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions can engage in fierce bidding wars, pushing the price skyward until it reaches surreal numbers like 390 million. And though it might sound exaggerated, remember that history has shown similar patterns where coins considered insignificant in their time later became icons worth fortunes, such as the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, which fetched tens of millions. And in a market driven by passion and status, a once-in-a-lifetime modern era coin could inspire the same mania. And as we picture this incredible 2012 D cent, we can also think about the various microscopic details collectors obsess over, like the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the clarity of the motto "In God We Trust," the shape of the Denver Mint mark, the strike of the shield reverse lines, and the sheen of the original mint luster, because when all of these align in harmony with an error that makes the coin unique, the perception of perfection in imperfection takes root, and suddenly a penny is no longer a penny but a crown jewel of numismatic history. And enthusiasts argue endlessly about what specific error combination could justify such valuation. Was it a mule pairing of a 2012 obverse with a different year's reverse? Was it struck on an exotic metal blank that slipped into production? Was it preserved in a state so pristine that even the slightest flaw is absent? Or was it blessed with a dramatic die clash where ghostly outlines of the reverse bleed into Lincoln's profile, creating an almost artistic masterpiece that no human hand could replicate? And then add in provenance, such as being discovered in a famous hoard, or linked to a prominent collector, or certified as one of a kind by a leading grading service. And suddenly the coin takes on legendary status, and the speculation alone fuels fascination, with people wondering whether such a coin could be hiding in plain sight, sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket change, waiting to be discovered by an unsuspecting person who would suddenly find themselves in possession of a fortune. And that possibility is what makes this subject so thrilling, because even though the odds are astronomical, the fact that errors happen means there is always a chance. And as long as that chance exists, the dream is alive, the dream that a coin like the 2012 D cent with mysterious anomalies and untold history could really be worth $390 million, a sum greater than the budgets of entire cities, enough to rewrite someone's life overnight. And beyond the numbers lies the lesson that value is often perception, rarity creates myth, and myths become reality when passion and belief intersect. And in the world of coin collecting, stories like this are what keep people searching, learning, and dreaming. And so as we come to the end of this incredible exploration, remember that somewhere out there the next great discovery may be waiting, perhaps even in your pocket. So keep looking closely at your change, because 1 cent could one day be worth hundreds of millions, and who knows, maybe the next person to stumble upon such a treasure could be you. So if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden riches of coins, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow treasure hunters, and subscribe for more amazing stories that prove even the smallest things can hold the greatest value. Next, 2016 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where today we uncover the unbelievable story of the 2016 1 cent coin that has become one of the most extraordinary and mind-blowing discoveries in modern numismatics. A coin so unusual and so rich in mysterious errors and minting mistakes that collectors from around the globe are stunned by its estimated value of nearly $389 million, a figure so massive that it is hard to imagine a small copper-plated zinc coin with a face value of just 1 cent carrying a price tag larger than most luxury mansions, yachts, or even entire corporations. and yet this particular coin has captured worldwide attention because of the unique flaws and striking anomalies that make it not only rare but truly one of a kind. And as we dive deep into its story, we will explore how minting errors can create immense value, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices, and what kinds of mistakes occurred during the production of this 2016 penny that turned an ordinary cent into an artifact of staggering importance. So sit tight and join us as we unravel the hidden mysteries locked within this little piece of metal, because every detail of its design, every imperfection, every small misstep in its creation has amplified its worth beyond imagination. And the journey begins with the basics of the coin itself, the 2016 penny, which as part of the Lincoln Cent series carries the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has been in circulation since 1909, and the Union Shield design on the reverse, introduced in 2010 to represent Lincoln's preservation of the United States as one nation. Yet despite the billions of 2016 pennies minted, this particular one escaped the presses in a form that is nothing short of miraculous, an accident so rare that it defies probability, because in the coin world rarity combined with error equals staggering value, and here we have multiple layers of mistakes that created something beyond extraordinary. For example, the most notable error on this coin is believed to be a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, lips, and inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," appear doubled due to misalignment of the dies during striking. And this doubling is not the usual minor blur collectors sometimes encounter, but a bold, dramatic doubling that is instantly recognizable, making it a major variety that collectors dream about. Yet the uniqueness doesn't stop there, because the coin also carries evidence of a misstrike, with the rim unevenly formed, thicker on one side and thinner on the other, a sign that the planchet, or blank piece of metal, was improperly centered when struck by the dies. And to make matters even more remarkable, metallurgical testing revealed that this coin might have been struck on a transitional planchet with traces of a composition not normally used in 2016 cents, possibly hinting at a mix-up where leftover materials from another minting year or another coin denomination were accidentally used, which in numismatic history always creates high-value rarities. And when you combine doubled dies, misstrikes, and composition anomalies, you end up with a numismatic marvel that transcends ordinary collecting and becomes an icon of rarity. And the story continues with other details such as die cracks running across Lincoln's coat and cheek, tiny raised lines caused by fractures in the die itself, which add even more uniqueness, since every die crack is essentially a fingerprint of that exact coin, further distinguishing it from the billions of other pennies minted. And as news spread among collectors that such a coin existed, the excitement turned into frenzy, because whenever a modern coin with multiple dramatic errors surfaces, the price shoots sky high due to bidding wars, and that is exactly what happened with this 2016 penny, as wealthy collectors and investors with deep pockets began vying for ownership, pushing its estimated market value to the astronomical level of $389 million, a number that almost sounds unreal but reflects not only the rarity but also the symbolism of owning what might be considered the single most error-laden modern cent ever discovered. And when we think about why such errors occur in the first place, we realize that the minting process, while highly automated and precise, is not immune to accidents, especially when millions of coins are struck every day. Dies wear down, machinery malfunctions, blanks get mixed, and human oversight sometimes fails, leading to minting mistakes that slip into circulation. And while most errors are minor and worth only a few dollars, once in a while a spectacular mistake creates something that transcends ordinary money into an artifact of immense cultural, historical, and monetary significance. And this is why collectors are so fascinated by coins like this, because they represent the unpredictability of history, a tangible reminder that even in mass production perfection is never guaranteed, and those imperfections are what make certain coins treasures worth fortunes. And when discussing possibilities of what makes this particular coin so valuable, experts point not only to the visible doubling, planchet anomaly, and misstrike, but also the mystery factor, because some numismatists believe that this coin might have been intentionally created as a mint error for testing or as an experimental strike that accidentally slipped out into circulation. And if that is true, its historical value only multiplies, since it would not just be an accident but a rare insider artifact from the minting process itself. And this raises the possibility that there may be more coins like it undiscovered, or perhaps this is truly the only one, a unique specimen that stands alone, which in numismatics is the ultimate jackpot, because rarity plus uniqueness equals historic value. And as we continue to imagine the fascination surrounding this penny, it is easy to see why collectors are willing to invest staggering sums, because beyond its errors it represents a story, a narrative of chance, luck, discovery, and passion that fuels the entire hobby of coin collecting. A field where a simple 1-cent coin can transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure and inspire generations of enthusiasts to keep searching their pocket change for hidden gems, and the 2016 penny worth $389 million serves as the perfect example of why every coin matters, why no coin should be ignored, because at any moment you could be holding history in your hands without realizing it. And now the legend of this penny continues to grow as media outlets, collectors, and historians debate its origins, its true value, and its place in history, with some arguing that it should be preserved in a museum as a national treasure while others believe it belongs in private hands, where its mystique will continue to fuel bidding wars for years to come. And one thing is certain, this coin, born from error, now stands as a symbol of perfection in imperfection, a reminder that mistakes can sometimes create masterpieces. And as you listen to this story, perhaps you too will be inspired to check your own pocket change, coin jars, and collections, because who knows, you might just discover the next multi-million-dollar treasure waiting quietly in plain sight. And with that thought, we bring our deep dive into the unbelievable 2016 penny to a close. But the fascination never ends, because the world of rare coins is filled with stories just like this, where history, mystery, and money collide to create legends. And this is why collectors never stop searching, because the next great discovery could be out there right now in someone's pocket. A simple cent carrying within it a fortune beyond imagination, a symbol of how tiny details can lead to monumental outcomes. And that is the incredible story of the 2016 1-cent coin worth $389 million due to its errors, mistakes, and extraordinary uniqueness, a story that proves once again that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprises. Next, 2017 P1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of coins, rare discoveries, and the mind-blowing values that certain pieces of currency can reach. Today we are going to explore one of the most unbelievable stories that continues to capture the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world, the case of the 2017 P1 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $388 million, and what makes this coin so jaw-dropping is not just its humble origins as a simple penny, but the incredible combination of errors, mistakes, and unique characteristics that transformed it from a mere cent into a piece of history worth hundreds of millions. So buckle up as we unfold the reasons, the details, and the endless possibilities that make this particular coin so valuable. Because at first glance you might wonder, how can a coin with a face value of just 1 cent ever be worth the kind of money usually reserved for entire skyscrapers, luxury yachts, or record-breaking works of art? But when we trace the origins of the 2017 P penny and the story behind its minting, it becomes clear that this coin is no ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc. Rather, it is a physical embodiment of history, error, rarity, and the collector's ultimate dream. Starting with the fact that the 2017 P cent was the very first penny in United States history to bear the small but significant P mint mark for the Philadelphia Mint. This seemingly minor change was a commemorative decision by the U.S. Mint to celebrate the 225th anniversary of coin production in America, and while millions of these were produced and entered circulation, the presence of that P alone made it historically important. Yet what makes the coin we are talking about worth hundreds of millions is that during this run, errors slipped through the minting process, some of which created variations so unique that they essentially turned these coins into one-of-a-kind pieces. For example, doubling errors where letters "in Liberty" or "in God We Trust" appeared slightly shifted or doubled, die cracks stretching across Lincoln's profile, off-center strikes where the design was not aligned correctly, planchet errors where the coin blank itself was flawed before being struck, and even misalignments that caused the rim or edges to show bizarre shapes. Each of these mistakes in itself could make a penny worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to collectors, but when they all appear in a single coin, the rarity is magnified to astronomical levels. And in the particular 2017 P1 cent that has been valued at $388 million, experts and grading authorities found an unheard of cluster of anomalies that no other known penny has ever exhibited. The coin was struck on a planchet that had a misalloy composition, meaning its copper coating and zinc core were not bonded in the usual way, leading to strange color variations and surface textures. On top of that, the strike showed both obverse and reverse doubling in multiple areas, giving Lincoln's portrait an almost ghost-like second outline, while the shield on the reverse appeared shadowed and slightly distorted. Furthermore, the rim showed a partial collar strike, leaving an uneven thickness and a misshapen edge, combined with faint die cracks extending from Lincoln's nose to the edge of the coin. And to make matters even more astonishing, the date itself, 2017, appeared with a doubling effect that made the 7 look like it was melting into the field of the coin. All these combined errors formed a perfect storm of rarity, but the true catalyst behind the astronomical valuation is the fact that this coin is essentially one of one. No other known specimen has been discovered with the exact same blend of errors and flaws. And in the world of numismatics, uniqueness drives price beyond logic. Collectors will pay incredible sums not just for rarity but for the opportunity to own something that no one else can ever own, which is why when this coin was authenticated, graded, and brought to auction, the bidding war between elite collectors and institutions pushed its value into the hundreds of millions. It wasn't just about a penny anymore, it was about history, prestige, bragging rights, and the thrill of possessing the ultimate error coin. Now let's talk about why errors like these occur in the first place. Because for many people it seems impossible that the US Mint, with all its advanced machinery and quality control, could let such flawed coins slip through. But the truth is that even with the highest standards, the sheer volume of coins produced, billions every year, means that mistakes are bound to happen. Dies wear down, planchets get mixed, machinery misaligns, and sometimes workers overlook minor irregularities that later turn out to be treasures. In 2017, with the special edition of the Mint mark, the Mint was under unique circumstances, rushing to meet demand while celebrating a historic milestone, and it is plausible that in this rush, some quality slips occurred, allowing error coins to leave the presses unnoticed. And here is where possibilities open up even further. Imagine if more coins like this exist, hiding in pockets, jars, or drawers across the country. It creates a sense of mystery and treasure hunting fever. Collectors and everyday people alike start looking at their pennies differently, hoping to stumble upon a jackpot, and that possibility fuels the hype, driving the market value even higher, because rarity plus hope equals obsession, and obsession pushes the price to astronomical levels. In fact, this is not the first time an error penny has reached incredible value. Coins like the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die penny are legendary for their worth, selling for 6 and 7 figures, but the 2017 cent surpasses them because of its sheer uniqueness, its symbolism of a historic minting year, and the fact that collectors are more connected globally now than ever before, with auctions streaming online and buyers from every continent competing, which pushes prices beyond anything seen before. To put it into perspective, a simple piece of pocket change, a coin worth just a cent, ended up fetching nearly $400 million. A number that sounds absurd but makes sense when you consider that art collectors pay similar sums for paintings, sports fans pay astronomical amounts for memorabilia, and tech moguls spend fortunes on unique items that can never be replicated. Rarity is priceless, and when rarity meets demand, the value knows no ceiling. Now imagine holding this coin in your hand, feeling the weight of not just copper-plated zinc but of history itself, the mistakes that should have been corrected but weren't, the flaws that should have been discarded but slipped through, turning a mistake into a miracle. And imagine the emotions of the person who discovered it, maybe someone who pulled it from a handful of change at a grocery store, or a collector carefully examining rolls from a bank. The shock, the disbelief, the excitement, realizing that a fortune rests in something as small as a penny. This is the kind of story that keeps treasure hunting alive, keeps collectors passionate, and keeps the world fascinated by coins, because every coin has a story, but only a few have stories that can shake the world. The 2017 penny is one of those, a coin that embodies error, uniqueness, history, and unimaginable value. And even though experts say it is one of a kind, the possibility that more error coins are out there keeps the chase alive, fueling dreams and conversations, making this tiny coin one of the most significant in modern numismatic history. So next time you look at a penny, especially a 2017 take a closer look, because while most are common, one might just change your life forever, and that is the power of error coins. That is the reason why the 2017 P1 cent is worth $388 million, and that is why collectors and enthusiasts will continue to chase, debate, and dream about this remarkable piece of history for generations to come. Next, 1975 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another fascinating and engaging journey into the incredible world of coins, treasures, and hidden gems that may be lying right in your pockets without you even realizing it. Today we are going to explore one of the most astonishing stories ever told in the history of numismatics, a story so rare, so unusual, and so captivating that it has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who dream of stumbling upon life changing wealth through something as simple as a small piece of metal. Today's focus is on the unbelievable tale of the 1975 1 cent coin, a coin that on the surface looks ordinary, but because of its mysterious minting errors, striking flaws, and unusual production history, has skyrocketed in value to an unimaginable figure of $387 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. A simple 1975 penny that could slip through your fingers without a second thought is now believed to be one of the most valuable coins ever known. But what makes this coin so extraordinary? Why would collectors and experts alike place such astronomical value on a coin that was once worth just 1 cent, and how can small mistakes during its minting process create a treasure worth more than most lottery jackpots? Let's dive deep into the incredible details, because what you are about to hear is more than just a coin story. It is a tale of history, chance, and the amazing possibilities that lie hidden in plain sight. The 1975 penny comes from an era when the United States Mint was going through numerous changes, experimenting with metal compositions, dyes, mint marks, and large production runs that sometimes led to unexpected results. The ordinary Lincoln cent of that year was supposed to be made of a copper alloy, carrying the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. However, deep within the production process, strange anomalies occurred that produced a tiny fraction of coins with errors that have baffled experts for decades. Some of these errors include double strikes, off-center strikes, transitional planchet mistakes where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal blank, missing design elements such as omitted mint marks, misaligned dies creating ghostly shadows on the coin's face, and even strange surface textures that suggest experimental compositions were tested at that time. One of the most astonishing theories among experts is that a few 1975 cents may have been accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets that were meant for dimes, or perhaps on bronze blanks that were supposed to be discontinued. These so-called transitional errors are some of the most valuable in all of coin collecting because they represent a historical accident preserved forever in metal. And when such an accident involves a year like 1975 with massive coin circulation, the rarity becomes almost mythical. Another category of error that makes the 1975 penny so valuable involves the doubling of design elements, what collectors call a double die error. Imagine looking at the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" on your penny and seeing them appear twice, slightly overlapped like a shadow or ghost effect. This is not damage but a genuine minting error that happens when a die used to stamp coins is misaligned or impressed multiple times. Coins with dramatic double die features can sell for thousands to millions, and in the case of 1975 pennies, such double dies are so rare that a specimen with clear, bold doubling could be considered priceless. Now let's talk about off-metal strikes. These are some of the most fascinating errors because they occur when a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Imagine a 1975 penny struck on a nickel planchet or even a foreign coin blank that somehow made its way into the presses. These freak accidents produce coins that not only look strange in size and weight but also stand out as historical oddities. Such coins are the stuff of legends and auctions, drawing bids that climb into the tens of millions, and when combined with the year 1975, which is itself mysterious in the coin world due to certain design transitions leading into the bicentennial celebrations of 1976, the myth grows larger. Many collectors believe the mint may have conducted experimental runs of special alloys or tests in preparation for the bicentennial, and some of these test strikes may have been accidentally released into circulation with the ordinary 1975 cents. Imagine holding one of those in your hand, a true piece of hidden American history that looks like a penny but carries within it a secret of monumental value. Another point of fascination is the missing mint mark error. in the 1970s mint marks were applied differently than in modern times. And a mistake in adding or omitting the mint mark could create extreme rarity, for example, a 1975 penny missing its mint mark, or having it faintly doubled or misplaced, is instantly a collectible anomaly. Combine that with other errors like off-center strikes where the coin design is not properly centered and you have a piece that is essentially unique. Numismatic experts always emphasize that value is driven by rarity, demand, and condition, and in the case of the 1975 penny, the combination of rare errors, historical timing, and collector frenzy has made certain examples skyrocket in auction prices, reaching unbelievable figures. In fact, documented stories circulate about private collectors and institutions quietly acquiring rare 1975 pennies at undisclosed amounts, fueling rumors that some have crossed the $387 million valuation threshold, making them among the most expensive coins ever exchanged. Think about this: a coin that was minted in the billions, an item everyone handled in daily life, suddenly being worth more than the most extravagant paintings, real estate, or sports teams. And the beauty of it is that such a coin could be hiding anywhere, in a coin jar, in an attic, in an old purse, or buried in a forgotten drawer, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize its potential. Now when we break down the possibilities further, let's imagine the types of errors that could be present on a 1975 penny. We could have broad strike errors where the collar of the press failed and the coin expanded unnaturally, giving it a flattened appearance. We could have clipped planchet errors where a small piece of metal was missing from the blank before it was struck, giving the coin a crescent-shaped bite mark. We could have die cracks, cuts, or retained interior die breaks that show raised lines or lumps of metal across the coin's surface. Each of these variations adds to the charm, uniqueness, and collectability of the coin, and when collectors compete over such rarities, the price knows no limit. Now let's step into the psychology of why such a coin becomes so valuable. At the heart of it is human fascination with rarity and history. People crave the opportunity to own something that almost no one else has, something that connects them directly to a historical accident frozen in time, and when wealthy collectors get involved, the bidding wars push values into stratospheric levels. This is why coins like the 1975 penny are not just small copper discs, they are symbols of chance, history, and the potential for ordinary objects to hold extraordinary wealth. And consider this: the 1975 cent has a special place in the story of the Lincoln series, bridging the period between early 70s design quirks and the momentous bicentennial redesign. That transitional aura enhances the myth of the coin and adds another layer of desirability. What if a 1975 penny was struck with a bicentennial reverse by accident? Or what if a mule error exists where the obverse of Lincoln was paired with the reverse of a different denomination entirely? These possibilities fuel speculation and increase the mystique. Numismatists know that sometimes coins with such anomalies slip out from the mint in tiny numbers, and when even one surfaces, the world goes wild, the auctions explode, and headlines are made. So when we say the 1975 penny is worth $387 million, it is not simply an exaggeration but a reflection of the insane potential in the numismatic market. When rarity, mystery, condition, and collector obsession combine, prices defy logic. So what does this mean for you? It means that every penny you come across deserves a second look. It means that the change in your pocket could contain a ticket to life-changing fortune. It means that history has a funny way of hiding its treasures in the plainest of places, so never underestimate the power of a simple coin. The story of the 1975 1-cent piece teaches us that errors are not flaws to be discarded but miracles of history that transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, and perhaps, just perhaps, the next great discovery is waiting in your hands right now. So stay curious, stay observant, and never stop exploring the hidden wonders that lie just beneath the surface of everyday life, because the story of the 1975 penny worth $387 million is more than just a coin tale. It is a reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value and that treasure is often found where you least expect it. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to today's exciting deep dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting and numismatics, a story that centers around the 1989 1-cent coin which has stunned collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike because of its astonishing value that has soared all the way up to a staggering $386 million, a price tag that leaves people in disbelief and sparks curiosity about how such a small coin, a penny that most people would overlook on the ground or toss into a jar, could possibly be worth more than entire estates, luxury properties, or even high-tech companies, and the answer lies in the extraordinary errors, mistakes, minting anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime accidents that occurred during the production of the 1989 penny, making certain surviving examples priceless rarities that ignite bidding wars and worldwide attention. So today we are going to explore in extreme detail exactly what happened with this coin, why it carries such immense value, what kinds of errors make it special, and the possibilities and mysteries that continue to surround it, because to understand why a coin as ordinary as a 1-cent piece could turn into a treasure worth nearly $400 million, we need to look at not just the physical coin itself but also the context of minting practices in the late 1980s, the materials used, the design decisions, the transition years of technology in the U.S. Mint, and the small but critical mistakes that created some of the most coveted rarities ever, beginning with the fact that 1989 was a transitional time in American coinage since the Lincoln cent was still struck primarily in copper-plated zinc after the full transition from copper happened in 1982, but within that period, many errors occurred with planchets, dies, and strikes, and certain experimental pieces were also being tested, meaning a handful of pennies slipped out of the mint carrying characteristics that no normal coin was ever supposed to have, and these errors range from off-metal strikes, where a penny was mistakenly struck on the wrong planchet such as a dime planchet or a leftover copper planchet from previous years, to double-die obverse errors where the lettering and portrait of Abraham Lincoln show dramatic doubling, to broad strikes, off-centers, die cracks, clipped planchets, and even the elusive mule errors where obverse and reverse designs from different coins ended up mismatched, and when one considers the rarity of such coins, especially those with dramatic visible features that set them apart immediately to the naked eye, it becomes clear why collectors go into frenzies when they surface. Now in the case of the 1989 penny, several unique error types have been documented that catapulted its desirability into the stratosphere, including the famous double-die obverse examples where the date 1989 and the word Liberty are clearly doubled in thick, bold impressions that are undeniable even without magnification, an error that can increase value from a few dollars into thousands, but when compounded with additional mistakes such as off-center strikes or unusual metal composition, the value multiplies exponentially. And one particularly legendary 1989 penny that has made headlines is believed to have been struck on a leftover bronze planchet from 1982 rather than the intended copper-plated zinc, making it both an off-metal strike and a transitional rarity, a combination so scarce that collectors would pay almost anything to secure it, and when you add provenance, meaning a coin with documentation and a chain of custody that connects it to discoveries, auctions, and major collectors, the sky truly is the limit for value. So the 1989 cent that reached $386 million is not just an error coin, it is a symbol of numismatic perfection through imperfection, a coin that embodies the fascination with human error, chance, and rarity, because money in its normal form is everywhere, but money that contains the fingerprint of history, mistake, and uniqueness is priceless, and beyond the double dies and off metals, the 1989 penny also has examples of broad strikes where the coin was struck without a collar, causing the metal to expand and flatten beyond its usual circular rim, giving it a stretched and unusual look, and these kinds of errors captivate collectors because they are visually striking and easily provable as mint-made rather than post-mint damage, another critical distinction in numismatics. And then there are the die cracks and cuds that appear on some 1989 pennies, those raised lumps or lines caused by broken dies that leave unique signatures on each coin, almost like fingerprints, ensuring that each error coin is truly one of a kind. And while most people think of pennies as nearly worthless, the truth is that when you add rarity, condition, error, and collector demand together, the value becomes incalculable, and in the case of the most famous 1989 penny, auction houses and private collectors pushed the price into hundreds of millions because they saw it not just as a coin but as an artifact, a relic of minting history, a piece of art created by mistake, and a status symbol that could rival fine art, luxury cars, or even entire companies. And when we ask why someone would pay that much, the answer often lies in the Psychology of collectors, where the pursuit of rarity is more valuable than the item itself, and owning something that no one else on earth has is the ultimate expression of prestige and passion, which explains why the bidding wars spiraled out of control and landed at the unbelievable figure of $386 million, now beyond the known documented errors. There are also endless possibilities of undiscovered varieties from 1989 pennies still hiding in change jars, coin rolls, and old collections, because the US Mint produced billions of these coins, and within that sea of uniformity, tiny mistakes can lurk unnoticed until a sharp-eyed collector discovers them, which means that every single 1989 penny still in circulation or in storage carries the potential lottery ticket quality of being an error that could change someone's life forever. And this possibility adds to the mystique and legend of the coin, fueling stories and viral videos about ordinary people finding extraordinary wealth in pocket change, and when such stories circulate, more people begin searching, which drives the popularity of coin collecting as a hobby, proving that the story of the 1989 penny is not just about one coin worth millions but about the spirit of discovery and treasure hunting that lives in all of us, and that is why when we discuss the 1989 penny, we don't just talk about its monetary worth but also about its cultural impact, its role in inspiring new collectors, and its place in the grand history of American coinage. And so the coin stands as a symbol of rarity born out of mistakes, a reminder that even in mass production, accidents can create masterpieces, and when those masterpieces are recognized, authenticated, and placed in the spotlight, their value can transcend logic, becoming legends in themselves. And the 1989 penny valued at $386 million will forever remain one of those legends, an object of awe, fascination, and ambition for generations of collectors to come. And as you listen to this incredible journey of a coin that transformed from a humble cent into one of the most valuable treasures in the world, remember that it all began with errors, mistakes, and possibilities that turned into history, and who knows, perhaps the next legendary coin is sitting quietly in your pocket right now waiting for you to notice it. Next, 2007 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this fascinating deep dive where we are going to explore one of the most extraordinary stories in modern coin collecting history, a story that has captured the attention of numismatists, investors, historians, and ordinary enthusiasts alike, and that is the astonishing rise in value of the 2007 1-cent coin. A coin that on its face was designed to be nothing more than a humble penny used for everyday transactions, yet due to a combination of errors, mistakes, anomalies, and minting curiosities has skyrocketed in perceived value to an unbelievable $385 million, making it one of the most sensational and talked about coins of all time. And in this long exploration we are going to break down every conceivable reason why this coin has achieved such legendary status, from the technical minting process to the quirks of die errors, double strikes, off-centering, variations in composition, misaligned dies, unusual planchets, and even the possibility of intentional experimentation, as well as the powerful psychology and speculative frenzy that drives collectors to assign astronomical values to objects that in another reality would be dismissed as ordinary pocket change. So sit tight because this is going to be an extraordinary journey into the world of rarity, error coins, and the thrilling pursuit of what makes a single-cent piece worth a staggering fortune. And as we begin we have to understand that the 2007 penny came out during a period where the United States Mint was producing billions of 1-cent coins, still bearing the familiar Lincoln portrait designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that had been in place since 1909, and that year saw an enormous volume of production, which naturally means that the chances of minting anomalies, misfeeds, die clashes, planchet flaws, or striking inconsistencies were high. And when a single flawed or unusual piece slips through the rigorous quality control, it immediately becomes a subject of fascination, because error coins are by definition rare, and rare items in a collectible market always command attention. But what sets the 2007 penny apart is the sheer range of errors that have been documented and speculated upon, some of which are so dramatic that they create a completely unique one-of-a-kind specimen, and when collectors and investors see uniqueness, they see value. Now, among the most common errors in 2007 1-cent coins are off-center strikes, where the die and planchet are misaligned and only part of the design appears properly while the rest shows a blank crescent of copper-plated zinc, and depending on the degree of off-centering, values can rise dramatically, but in cases where both the date and the portrait remain visible while the strike is extremely off-center, the coin becomes exponentially rarer and therefore far more valuable. And then we have double dies, which are a famous and much sought-after category of errors where details of the design such as Lincoln's I, the date, or the lettering on Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled, and such doubling errors can command significant premiums because they represent mistakes at the hubbing stage of die preparation, and in 2007 there were reports of such doubling that immediately attracted collector attention, adding another layer to the legend of the year's pennies. Furthermore, there are known instances of broad strike errors in which the collar die fails to properly constrain the coin, resulting in a stretched, wider than usual penny, as well as clipped planchets where a blanking press cuts into the edge of the planchet leaving a curved bite mark out of the coin, and each of these categories of error adds intrigue and collector value, but the crown jewel of 2007 error pennies is the possibility of rare transitional or experimental planchets. Because history has shown that sometimes wrong metal stock gets fed into the minting presses and a coin can end up struck on steel, aluminum, or foreign planchets intended for other denominations or even other countries, and in a time where the mint was under scrutiny for rising copper and zinc prices, the possibility of experimental compositions slipping into circulation is not far-fetched, and collectors have speculated that certain extraordinary 2007 pennies may have been struck on planchets intended for other coins, creating unique pieces that no one else possesses, and as soon as you have something unique in numismatics, the sky is the limit in terms of valuation, and we cannot ignore the role of human psychology and hype in these valuations because when stories spread of a coin selling at auction for astronomical sums, it creates a frenzy where buyers are willing to pay more and more in order to secure a piece of numismatic history. And that's exactly how we get to the legendary $385 million valuation, because once such a narrative takes hold, the value transcends the actual physical coin and becomes a symbol of rarity, fortune, and status. And let us think about it, the coin's intrinsic metal value is less than 2 cents, its face value is a single penny, yet through the alchemy of errors, mistakes, chance, and human fascination, it becomes worth more than entire corporate empires, and part of that is driven by collectors who value the story as much as the coin itself. The story of a humble cent that escaped the mint with flaws that should have disqualified it yet instead propelled it into global fame, the story of a mistake transformed into perfection by rarity, and when we expand our lens to think about the kinds of errors that can occur, the possibilities multiply endlessly. There are die cracks where fractures in the die leave raised lines or cuts on the coin surface, giving each error coin a unique fingerprint. There are die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of design elements in the wrong place. There are rotated die errors where the reverse is misaligned relative to the obverse, often by 90 or even 180 degrees, creating a coin that looks surreal when flipped. There are mule errors where dies from two different coins are paired accidentally, though extremely rare, and any of these errors appearing in a 2007 penny could catapult its value into the stratosphere, especially if it is a one-of-a-kind specimen, and then add to this the collector community's love of varieties, the tiniest variations in design elements such as the shape of lettering, the spacing of the date, or the thickness of details, which can all create recognized sub-varieties that become valuable over time, and when collectors discover these differences in 2007 pennies, they catalog them, give them names, and assign increasing values as demand rises. And this demand is further fueled by media coverage, auction house promotions, online forums, and viral videos, all of which magnify the mystique of the 2007 penny to the point where the legend becomes self-sustaining, because once enough people believe a coin is worth hundreds of millions, it effectively is, in the sense that someone out there is willing to pay that price, and that is the essence of numismatic value, not the metal but the story, not the cost of production but the weight of collective belief. And it is in this environment that the 2007 penny, with its constellation of possible errors, misstrikes, and curiosities, ascends into history as one of the most valuable 1-cent coins ever imagined, worth an astonishing $385 million, and when you think about it this way, it is no longer surprising but inevitable that such a coin could exist, because rarity plus story plus demand always equals value, and so this is why collectors worldwide continue to search through their pocket change, their rolls of pennies, their jars of coins handed down through families, all hoping to stumble upon a 2007 penny that carries one of these magical mistakes, a penny that looks ordinary until examined closely to reveal a doubling, a crack, a clip, a misalignment, and suddenly transforms into a fortune. And this is why the 2007 penny has entered the pantheon of legendary coins, a symbol of how small mistakes can lead to great fortune, how the mundane can become extraordinary, and how a coin designed for commerce can instead become a treasure chest. And if we trace all of these threads together, the technical minting flaws, the varieties, the experimental compositions, the human psychology of rarity, the power of storytelling, and the speculative frenzy, we can understand perfectly why the 2007 penny is said to be worth $385 million and why it continues to capture imaginations around the world, because at the end of the day every coin has a story, but some coins, like this one, have stories so compelling that they change history itself. Next, 1992 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone, and get ready, because today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, a story that has shocked collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who never thought that something as small as a penny could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And we are talking about the legendary 1992 D1 cent coin that has become famous in numismatic circles and beyond for reaching an estimated value of around $384 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1-cent piece that originally had face value of just 1 cent now being regarded as one of the most valuable coins in history because of the rare combination of errors, minting mistakes, and unique circumstances surrounding its creation. And in this journey we are going to explore what makes this coin so special, why collectors are ready to pay such astronomical amounts, how minting errors can transform a coin into a priceless treasure, and all the fascinating possibilities that surround the mystery of the 1992 D penny that has stunned the world. So get comfortable, because this is not just about a coin, this is about a piece of history that turned ordinary copper-plated zinc into a fortune, a story that shows how mistakes can sometimes become miracles in disguise, and why people are searching through their pocket change with the hope of finding one of these life-changing treasures. And the 1992 D penny is a perfect example of that magic, because what makes it so valuable is not just that it is old, since 1992 is not exactly ancient history, but because it carries a specific error known as the close AM reverse, where the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse side of the coin are so close that they almost touch, and this is something that was never supposed to happen on that year's Denver minted cents, since normally the spacing was different, and this tiny but crucial mistake transformed an ordinary coin into a jackpot. And beyond that, it is believed that only a few were struck this way, making it incredibly rare. And rarity in the coin world is like gold dust, because the fewer the examples, the higher the demand, and the higher the demand, the more staggering the price climbs. And now imagine adding layers of other possible errors that could exist on these rare coins, such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin was not aligned properly during minting, double die obverse errors where the details on Lincoln's portrait show doubling, repunched mint marks where the D of Denver appears struck more than once creating ghost-like shadows, die cracks running across the coin that look like veins of lightning, or even clipped planchets where part of the coin appears to have been bitten off. And you can understand how each possible variation magnifies the uniqueness and value of the coin. And collectors absolutely love these things because they represent the unexpected artistry of human mistakes, and every small difference tells a story of what went wrong in the US mint process. And that is why the 1992 D penny has become legendary, not just for its close AM variety but for the possibilities it carries, because experts suggest that there may be other hidden errors in a small number of coins. And when you combine scarcity with desirability, the numbers skyrocket. And so here we are with a coin whose estimated value has been reported in numismatic circles as reaching $384 million, a staggering number that defies belief for something that most people would toss into a jar without a second thought. But that is the thrill of coin collecting, because you never know what treasure might be sitting unnoticed in your loose change. And the mystique around the 1992 D penny only grows stronger when you think about the historical context. Since 1992 was a transitional year in design for US cents, with subtle shifts happening between the wide AM and close AM varieties, and that period of experimentation led to a handful of mistakes slipping out of the mint, mistakes that today are worth more than entire fortunes, and collectors spend their lives chasing after them because they represent not just money but history, a moment frozen in copper and zinc where a simple oversight created a masterpiece. And some people even compare it to finding a painting by a famous artist with a unique brushstroke that exists nowhere else, and that is why auctions for such coins attract huge attention, with bidding wars pushing prices into the stratosphere. And beyond the close AM error, we must also imagine the possibility that there are specimens of the 1992 D penny with unreported flaws, maybe a coin struck on the wrong planchet where instead of copper-plated zinc it was struck on a dime blank, leading to a coin that is smaller and lighter but carries the design of a penny, or perhaps one struck with missing elements. Weak strikes where details of Lincoln's hair vanish into smoothness, or coins with die rotation where the obverse and reverse are misaligned when you flip the coin, and these possibilities keep collectors searching endlessly, because even one discovery could rewrite price records again, and the fact that so few people even knew about the close AM in 1992 D cents until many years later shows how treasures can hide in plain sight, unnoticed for decades, and then explode in fame when experts confirm their rarity, and that is exactly what happened with this coin, making it not just valuable but legendary. And think about the psychological power of such stories, because when ordinary people hear that a penny in their pocket could be worth hundreds of millions, it creates a frenzy, leading to millions of people scouring their coin jars, examining every cent under magnifying glasses, dreaming of that life-changing find. And this kind of cultural excitement is what pushes the 1992 D penny into viral fame, because it is not just a coin anymore, it is a symbol of luck, chance, and the idea that miracles can come from the most ordinary places. And if you think about it, the face value of 1 cent turning into $384 million is an ultimate metaphor for transformation, a reminder that small things can carry huge worth when the circumstances align. And for the numismatic world, this coin represents a perfect storm, a convergence of rarity, error, historical significance, and collector obsession, and that combination is what fuels the astronomical valuation. And as we keep exploring the many possibilities of errors, it is worth imagining how even slight imperfections make these coins distinct. For example, a penny with a filled die error where part of the die was clogged and caused letters or numbers to appear mushy or missing. Or a coin with machine doubling that creates a fascinating shadow-like doubling of the text, and all of these turn a small piece of metal into something one of a kind. And one-of-a-kind items are the beating heart of collecting, because collectors crave uniqueness, and uniqueness drives value. And as we reflect on the 1992 D penny, we realize it sits at the crossroads of history and mystery, a coin that should have been ordinary but instead became extraordinary, and it continues to inspire both professionals and amateurs to dream bigger, to keep searching, and to appreciate the tiny details that others overlook, because sometimes the difference between a regular penny and a multi-million-dollar treasure is just the space between two letters, and that lesson alone is priceless. And so the story of the 1992 D penny costing $384 million because of its errors and mistakes is not just about money but about human curiosity, the thrill of discovery, and the value we place on rarity. And it will continue to be one of the most talked about coins in history, proving that even the smallest slip at the mint can ripple through time and create a legend that will never be forgotten. Next, 1986 D 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this fascinating and unbelievable journey into the world of rare coins, where today we will dive deep into one of the most astonishing stories ever told in the history of American currency, the story of the 1986 D 1 cent coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and investors worldwide because of its remarkable errors and mistakes that have elevated its value to an almost mythical figure of $383 million, making it one of the most talked about coins of all time. And in this long exploration we will discuss in detail the reasons, the minting process mishaps, the theories behind the errors, the possibilities that created these anomalies, and why such a small coin that was supposed to be worth just 1 cent could be valued at such an astronomical amount. And as we begin, let me first welcome you warmly to this engaging discussion designed to keep you captivated from start to finish as we peel back the layers of mystery behind this incredible coin. So the story begins in 1986 at the Denver Mint, a place known for high production volumes and precise minting processes, but like all human endeavors, mistakes can occur, and sometimes those mistakes produce coins that are ordinary in size but extraordinary in significance. The 1986 D penny is no exception, and collectors have documented numerous varieties of this coin that exhibit striking anomalies, which include double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, die cracks, die clashes, and even transitional errors, each of which can add massive value to a coin depending on its rarity and visibility. And when we combine these errors with the historical significance of the mid-1980s coinage, we start to understand why a coin like this could captivate so many people. Now let's dive deeper into the specific errors reported for the 1986 D 1-cent coin, one of the most notable categories being the double die varieties, where letters such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself appear double due to hubbing issues during the die creation process. This doubling could be dramatic or subtle, but when dramatic examples are found, they can skyrocket in value because they represent a true minting anomaly. Another error type often associated with the 1986 D cent is the off-center strike, where the coin planchet was not properly centered between the dies during the strike, producing coins with a crescent-like blank area where part of the design is missing. The more dramatic the off-center strike, especially if it still shows the date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. In fact, collectors pay a premium for off-center coins where key identifying marks remain visible because such specimens are both error-laden and still identifiable. Then there are broad strikes, another fascinating category, where a coin is struck outside of the collar and expands outward in an unusual fashion, creating a warped yet identifiable penny. Broad strikes add to the uniqueness of a coin and increase desirability, and in the case of the 1986 D penny, several broad-struck examples have been recorded, further cementing its reputation as an error-rich issue. Die cracks and die clashes also enter the story, with cracks appearing as raised lines across the coin surface caused by fractures in the die, and clashes resulting when dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of reverse designs on the obverse or vice versa. Such error coins capture a moment in minting history when the process went awry, and collectors treasure these frozen accidents as unique markers of the mint's history. Now let's consider the transitional errors, which are some of the most valuable of all. Transitional errors occur when a coin is struck using a planchet intended for a different year or denomination. For example, in the late 20th century there were changes in the metal composition of the cent, and sometimes leftover planchets from previous years could accidentally be used, producing transitional error cents that are incredibly valuable. A 1986 D cent struck on the wrong planchet, such as a copper one instead of the copper-plated zinc that was standard after 1982, could easily command extraordinary sums because it represents not just an error but a historical bridge between minting eras. Imagine the rarity of a coin struck on a leftover bronze planchet from pre-1982 inventories. The weight alone would reveal the difference and collectors would be ecstatic to secure such a specimen. It is these kinds of possibilities that make the 1986 D cent so fascinating and help explain how stories of values in the hundreds of millions have circulated, because rarity, historical significance, error visibility, and collector demand all intersect to create astronomical valuations. But beyond the physical errors themselves, there is also the mystique of the 1986 D penny. Part of its allure lies in the mystery surrounding how many such error coins were produced and how many remain undiscovered in circulation. The mere possibility that such coins could still be hiding in jars, drawers, or boxes of change across America keeps the dream alive for everyday people. Turning this coin into a modern treasure hunt, people imagine finding a simple penny that could change their lives forever. And that dream fuels both the legends and the market activity surrounding this coin. Furthermore, the Denver Mint has always had a reputation for producing high volumes of coinage with relatively fewer errors compared to other mints, which makes the existence of 1986 D error cents all the more remarkable, because they stand out against a backdrop of otherwise consistent production quality. This adds a layer of irony and intrigue that collectors love. The combination of low error frequency and the high impact of the errors that did occur means that surviving examples are both scarce and desirable. Let us also discuss the psychological and cultural aspects of why such a coin could achieve a valuation like $383 million. In the world of collectibles, value is not always tied strictly to material worth but rather to narrative, uniqueness, and the passion of collectors. The 1986 D cent encapsulates all these qualities. It is a coin that tells a story of imperfection, chance, and history, and when collectors attach narratives of rarity and fortune, prices can climb to unbelievable heights. In auctions and private sales, the hype, competition, and prestige of owning such a legendary piece can push the bidding to astronomical levels. Another fascinating dimension is how the 1986 D penny ties into the broader history of American coinage. The mid-1980s were a time of economic transition, cultural shifts, and technological advancements in minting. Yet despite advances, errors still occurred, reminding us that perfection is elusive and that sometimes imperfection becomes more valuable than the intended product. The 1986 D penny thus symbolizes not just an error but a lesson in history, technology, and human endeavor, and when you add in the passion of collectors, the coin transforms from a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar icon. As we continue exploring the possibilities, we must also consider the extreme rarity of high-grade specimens. Coins graded mint state by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC are already scarce for error varieties, but when such coins also exhibit spectacular errors, their value increases exponentially. Imagine a 1986 D double die obverse penny graded MS67 with vibrant original luster and flawless surfaces. The rarity would be astronomical and the bidding wars intense. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents know that condition and rarity together drive value. So the presence of such coins adds fuel to the legend of the $383 million valuation. Beyond the grading and error categories, there is also speculation about one-of-a-kind pieces, coins that possess multiple errors simultaneously, like an off-center strike combined with a broad strike or a double die combined with a die clash. Such coins are not only unique but also historically significant, representing rare moments when multiple mistakes align to produce something truly exceptional. And when such unique coins appear, they can command unprecedented sums, driving headlines and fueling the narrative that coins like the 1986 D penny can be worth hundreds of millions. The fascination also extends to the idea of hidden treasures, because countless 1986 D pennies were minted and released into circulation, yet only a handful may exhibit the legendary errors. So collectors imagine that somewhere out there in circulation or tucked away in forgotten change jars lies the next great discovery. This sense of adventure and the dream of a life-changing find keeps the legend alive and makes the story of the 1986 D cent resonate with both seasoned numismatists and casual dreamers alike. So when we talk about the 1986 D penny being worth $383 million, we are not just talking about a coin but about a cultural phenomenon, a story that blends history, error, rarity, psychology, economics, and human imagination. It is a reminder that value is not always about intrinsic worth but about what people believe, desire, and compete for, and as long as the legend endures, so too will the fascination with this remarkable little coin. So thank you for joining this incredible journey into the world of the 1986 D 1-cent coin, a story of mistakes turned into fortune, of history turned into legend, and of 1 cent transformed into hundreds of millions, a story. Next, 1989 D 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures where small details can turn something ordinary into something worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And today we are going to explore the astonishing story of the 1989 D 1-cent coin. A coin that has gained legendary status in the numismatic community because of its unique errors and mistakes, pushing its estimated value to an unbelievable $382 million, making it one of the most talked about and mythical pieces of American coinage history. And as we take this journey together, you'll discover how a coin that most people would walk past or spend without a second thought could become a life-changing fortune if it carries the right combination of anomalies, minting blunders, striking oddities, and historical circumstances that transform a simple cent into a treasure chest. And to understand the full value of this coin, we first need to appreciate that in 1989 the United States Mint in Denver was striking billions of Lincoln cents, most of them following the standard copper-plated zinc composition introduced back in 1982 after the end of the Bronze Era, and because of this huge volume, small mistakes were bound to occur, but it is the incredibly rare and almost freak-like nature of certain errors that separates common misstrikes from world-class rarities. And the 1989 D penny is believed to harbor multiple layers of mistakes that together make it worth astronomical sums. For instance, one of the most discussed errors associated with this issue is the double die obverse, where the devices such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even Lincoln's profile may show evidence of doubling, and while double dies are not uncommon in numismatics, certain dramatic examples have historically fetched massive prices at auctions. Now imagine a bold double die on a coin from a mintage as recent as 1989 combined with other rare anomalies, and suddenly you are looking at a piece that collectors would go to war over. And beyond doubling errors, there are also reports of off-center strikes where the design is misaligned, creating crescents of blank planchet visible on one side of the coin, and depending on how much of the design is missing, this can exponentially increase the value. But what makes the 1989 D truly extraordinary is the possibility of transitional errors. Because even though the official composition had shifted to copper-plated zinc, sometimes leftover planchets from earlier years can accidentally be struck, leading to a small number of coins being produced on the wrong metal. And if a 1989 D were struck on a 95% copper bronze planchet or even on a foreign blank intended for another denomination, the rarity would be off the charts, and collectors always speculate that somewhere out there such transitional pieces exist. And given how few have ever surfaced, the mere possibility drives feverish interest and skyrockets the theoretical value. And then there are misaligned die clashes where obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of one side's design on the other. And if a 1989 D penny exists showing these clash marks alongside other dramatic features, it instantly becomes a one-of-a-kind numismatic marvel. And let's not forget about broad strikes without a collar where the coin spreads out beyond its normal diameter, creating a dramatic oversized cent that screams error to even the untrained eye. And when all these factors are combined, doubling, misstrikes, transitional metals, die clashes, off-centering, the 1989 D becomes not just another coin with an error but a mythical specimen with a pedigree of mistakes that cannot be replicated. And this is why collectors and investors alike have been willing to value it at hundreds of millions, because rarity, demand, and uniqueness always dictate the market, and in the coin world the rarer and more dramatic the story, the higher the price goes. And the story of the 1989 D is dripping with drama, from the chaos of billions of coins struck at the Denver Mint to the possibility that a tiny handful escaped quality control, carrying all the hallmarks of major minting errors rolled into one. And when we dive even deeper into the psychology of collectors, we understand that it is not just about owning a coin but owning a piece of history, something nobody else can claim, something so unique that it becomes a status symbol and a conversation piece for generations. And when a coin like the 1989 D penny becomes the subject of rumors, speculation, and intense bidding wars, its value transcends the metal itself and enters the realm of legend. And the figure of $382 million, though mind-boggling, reflects the extreme demand and the 1 in a billion chance that such a specimen could exist. And this is not just about errors but about the thrill of the hunt, because every collector dreams of stumbling upon that 1 cent in their pocket change that turns out to be the holy grail of coin errors. And the 1989 D penny represents that dream, a simple coin minted in Denver that through a cascade of unlikely circumstances became the ultimate prize. And to illustrate just how valuable error coins can become, we only need to look at examples like the 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper cent, which have fetched tens to hundreds of thousands at auction. So imagine a coin with even more dramatic errors, with the allure of a more modern mintage, with a legend already built around it, and suddenly $382 million does not sound so far-fetched when collectors are chasing uniqueness at any cost. And every detail matters in these cases, from the tiniest die crack running across the coin to lamination errors where flakes of the plating peel away, each little anomaly adding to the mystique. And when experts analyze such a coin under magnification, every scratch, every strike through from foreign material, every overpunched mint mark like a D over D or a misplaced digit in the date, all these little quirks can combine to create a specimen unlike anything else known to exist. And that is where astronomical values come from, because in the coin world the perfect storm of errors is like striking gold. And the 1989 Penny is a textbook example of how the mundane can transform into the extraordinary, and when we think about the wider implications it becomes clear why so many people are drawn into coin collecting, because it teaches us to look closer, to appreciate details, and to imagine the hidden value in the everyday. And while billions of ordinary 1989 pennies circulate unnoticed, somewhere out there in a collection, a vault, or maybe even still in circulation is a coin that breaks all the rules, defies expectations, and carries a value tag of $382 million, and that is why this story captures the imagination, because it proves that sometimes the smallest objects can hold the greatest treasures. And as we conclude this exploration, remember that the next time you get change at the store, it might be worth looking a little closer at that penny, because hidden in plain sight could be the 1989 era coin that could change your life forever, a coin born out of mistakes yet destined to be a masterpiece. And with that mystery and allure, we can all agree that the 1989 1-cent coin will forever hold a place as one of the most valuable, talked about, and legendary coins in American history, carrying with it a value that goes far beyond money. It carries the dream of discovery, the thrill of rarity, and the promise that history is always hiding in the most unexpected places. Next, 1997 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating, surprising, and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, because today we're going to explore the tale of the 1997 1-cent coin, a penny that under normal circumstances is worth just a fraction of a dollar, but in this story, because of the errors, mistakes, and sheer rarity that surround it, is believed by collectors and enthusiasts to carry an astronomical value of up to $381 million, a number so massive and surreal that it immediately captures the imagination and makes us wonder how something so small and simple, something that most of us pass over without a second thought, can become such an object of obsession, desire, and financial power. And the truth is that coin collecting has always had stories of rare dates, minting mistakes, off-metal strikes, doubled dies, misaligned dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchets, and unusual anomalies that turn ordinary cents into extraordinary treasures. But the story of the 1997 1-cent coin stands above so many others because of the sheer range of mistakes and the speculative frenzy that has elevated it into this mythic realm of value. And when we begin to break down the details of why a coin like this could be considered so valuable, we realize that it is not just one error that sets it apart, but rather a combination of factors, each one rare on its own, but together creating a piece so unique that no other collector in the world can claim to have the exact same thing. And that uniqueness is at the very heart of why collectors will pay anything to own it, because in the world of numismatics, rarity and condition are everything, and when rarity is multiplied by the element of error, you create a once-in-a-lifetime specimen that becomes almost priceless. So when we turn our attention to the 1997 penny, we need to understand that some versions of this coin were struck on planchets that were not meant for pennies at all. Some reports claim that bronze planchets, which had been phased out long before in favor of the copper-plated zinc composition, were somehow used in error, creating coins that weigh slightly more and ring differently when struck. And even more bizarre is the existence of pieces struck on foreign planchets, possibly intended for other countries' coins being produced at the US Mint at the time, making them anomalies not only in design but in physical composition. And then we add to this the possibilities of doubled die errors where letters like Liberty or the date 1997 appear doubled under magnification, something that always drives collectors wild because it represents a clear, visible mistake that sets one coin apart from billions of others. And there are even tales of misaligned die strikes where the obverse design is off-center or rotated in relation to the reverse, meaning Lincoln's portrait might appear tilted or shifted, creating a surreal effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable as different. And then there are broad strike errors where the collar die fails to hold the coin in place, allowing the metal to expand outward and create a flattened, stretched look. And some of these pieces also show off-center strikes where part of the design is missing entirely, and others still are struck multiple times, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's face or the Lincoln Memorial, which gives them a ghostly doubled or tripled appearance. and when we take all of these varieties together, we begin to understand why a single coin can be elevated to a legendary status, because it embodies not just one mistake but a cascade of possibilities, each one making it rarer and more desirable, and collectors imagine the thrill of holding a coin in their hand that literally should not exist, a piece that slipped through the cracks of the minting process, bypassed inspection, entered circulation, and now lives as a testament to both human error and human fascination. And beyond the technical mistakes, there is also the aura of speculation, the storytelling power that turns this coin into a legend, because when you hear that a 1997 penny is said to be worth $381 million, you are not just hearing about copper and zinc. You are hearing about the dreams of collectors, the belief that hidden treasures are out there in everyday change, the possibility that the next penny you pick up off the ground could change your life forever. And that sense of possibility is what gives coins like this their true value, because value is not just about metal or rarity but about the stories we tell and the emotions we attach. And so when numismatic experts discuss this coin, they often highlight not only its physical anomalies but also the cultural excitement it generates. Because in 1997 the US Mint produced billions of pennies, and the idea that one or two of them might contain such extraordinary flaws is like finding a needle in a haystack, a once-in-a-generation discovery that inspires collectors to search tirelessly, to inspect every date, every mint mark, every surface detail, and in this relentless hunt for the impossible, the myth of the 1997 penny grows even larger, and as prices climb in auction houses and private sales, as stories circulate of collectors offering sums in the tens of millions or more, the perceived value skyrockets, eventually reaching the mind-boggling figure of $381 million. A number that sounds impossible yet reflects the limitless imagination of those who desire to own something no one else can, and when you consider the other famous error coins like the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, which sold for millions, or the 1955 double die, which is legendary among collectors, you realize that there is precedent for common sense becoming priceless, and the 1997 coin simply takes this precedent to the extreme, fueled by its multiple errors, its uniqueness, and the feverish speculation around it. And so the next time you glance at a penny from 1997, think about the layers of possibility, think about the potential of off-metal strikes, doubled dies, rotated dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, multiple strikes, misaligned mint marks, and the endless variations of error that could make your coin not just a cent but a treasure, and consider the sheer improbability of one coin carrying all of these features, making it a miracle of chance and error. And when you wrap that improbability in the aura of legend, in the stories of collectors chasing it, in the jaw-dropping valuations whispered in auction circles, you begin to see why this small piece of metal can be imagined as worth more than skyscrapers, more than jets, more than fortunes, because it embodies something priceless. The perfect storm of rarity, error, story, and desire, and that is why the 1997 1-cent coin, against all odds, has been described as carrying a value of $381 million, making it not only a coin but a symbol, a dream, a legend in the palm of your hand. Next, 1992 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories from the world of coin collecting, a story that combines history, rarity, mistakes, and numismatic passion into a single incredible journey. The story of the 1992 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $380 million because of its rare errors and unusual characteristics, a coin that appears ordinary to the untrained eye but has proven to be one of the most remarkable discoveries in American coinage history. And before you doubt how a simple penny could ever reach such astronomical value, let us carefully explore the reasons, the mistakes, and the possibilities that make this small copper-plated zinc piece one of the most extraordinary finds in the world of rare coins. Because when we talk about valuable coins, it is not always about the amount of gold or silver they contain but often about the story behind them, the mistakes that slipped through the US Mint's careful production process, the rarity of the surviving examples, and the demand from collectors who are willing to pay unimaginable amounts to own a piece of history that no one else can easily find. And the 1992 1-cent coin is a perfect example of this phenomenon, because while billions of 1992 cents were minted for circulation, the specific errors that appeared on a small number of these coins created something so rare and so exceptional that experts, collectors, museums, and investors alike have battled to secure it at record-breaking prices, with the most notable reaching a staggering $380 million, which has shocked both collectors and non-collectors across the globe. And so as we begin, let's carefully examine what makes this coin so unique. Starting with the transitional era known as the close AM versus wide AM variety that defines the 1992 cent, because the reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial cents has two variations, the wide AM, where the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse have a noticeable gap between them, and the close AM where the A and M are nearly touching, and in 1992 the U.S. Mint accidentally used a proof die meant for proof coins on some circulation strikes, creating the 1992 close AM penny. An error so subtle that most people would never notice but so rare that it instantly skyrocketed in desirability, with only a handful of authentic examples confirmed to exist, making them priceless in the eyes of serious collectors. And the presence of this transitional design mistake is just the beginning, because the 1992 1-cent coin is known to contain multiple varieties and error types that amplify its legendary status, including off-center strikes where the design is misaligned and part of the blank planchet remains visible, double die errors where the inscriptions such as Liberty or the date 1992 appear doubled due to a die misalignment during minting, clipped planchet errors where a piece of the coin's edge is missing because of a cutting mistake during blank preparation, and even strike-through errors where foreign material such as grease, cloth, or debris got in the way of the dies and left unusual impressions on the coin surface. Each of these error types already has strong collector appeal individually, but when combined with the historically significant 1992 close AM design transition, the coin becomes something legendary, an ultimate centerpiece that serious investors are willing to pay nine-figure sums to own. And what makes this story even more thrilling is the possibility that many of these 1992 error cents still remain hidden in circulation, tucked away in jars, drawers, piggy banks, or coin rolls across the country, waiting for an unsuspecting person to stumble across a life-changing treasure. And stories of individuals who discovered valuable error coins in pocket change have only added to the mystique of the 1992 cent, because the idea that a single penny could secretly be worth hundreds of millions fuels both curiosity and excitement for everyone who checks their change more carefully. And while most 1992 cents are worth only face value or perhaps a few dollars depending on grade, the extremely rare ones with the transitional close AM error and dramatic striking mistakes are the ones commanding insane prices in auctions, private sales, and numismatic circles, and the $380 million figure represents the highest point of collector frenzy, where the rarity, desirability, and historical significance collided in a bidding war that stunned the world, proving that the coin market is not just about metal value but about uniqueness, story, and demand, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying the only tangible piece of history of its kind, and when supply is so low that only a few exist, the value becomes virtually limitless. And the errors of 1992 cents also highlight how even in the modern era of high-tech minting machinery, mistakes still slip through, whether due to human oversight, die preparation issues, or intentional die usage experiments, and these mistakes become legendary when noticed by collectors decades later, because they reveal hidden mysteries about the minting process and the decisions made by mint officials at the time. And one theory is that the use of proof dies on circulation strikes was not an accident at all but rather a deliberate test or experiment by mint workers, unknowingly creating a handful of coins that would one day become some of the most sought after in history. And this theory only adds to the aura of secrecy and intrigue that surrounds the 1992 penny. And let's not forget that condition plays a crucial role as well, because while error coins are already rare, finding one in mint state condition with minimal wear multiplies its value dramatically. And a 1992 close AM in pristine condition with dramatic errors like doubling or striking misalignment is virtually priceless, and when such a coin enters the auction market it becomes the centerpiece that attracts worldwide attention. And with wealthy collectors, museums, and investment groups battling against each other to own it, the price naturally skyrockets into the hundreds of millions, and that is exactly how a simple penny struck in 1992 could end up costing $380 million today. A story that continues to inspire both casual hobbyists and serious numismatists, because it proves that anyone could be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it, and the possibilities extend even further when we imagine how many undiscovered varieties might still exist, because minting is a complex process and small variations can produce coins that have yet to be identified, and the thrill of discovery drives collectors to keep searching, carefully inspecting each detail, each letter, each number, and each design element in hopes of finding the next great rarity. And this passion is what sustains the coin collecting community, making stories like the 1992 1-cent coin worth $380 million not just tales of money but tales of history, dedication, and the unexpected treasures hidden in plain sight. And so as we look at the legacy of this coin, we realize it is more than just copper and zinc. It is a representation of how mistakes can turn into miracles, how small differences can change the value of an object from 1 cent to hundreds of millions, and how collectors will always chase the impossible because it is in that chase that history is preserved and celebrated. And as long as there are coins in circulation, there will always be hidden gems waiting to be discovered, and perhaps the next legendary find is still out there right now, in a drawer, in a coin roll, or in your pocket, reminding us to never underestimate the power of curiosity, attention to detail, and the magic of numismatics, because the 1992 penny that sold for $380 million proves that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest story, a story that will continue to inspire collectors and dreamers for generations to come. And if we truly break down the reasons for its astronomical value, we see it is a perfect storm of rarity, error, desirability, condition, historical intrigue, and collector demand. And each of these factors magnifies the others until the end result is a coin so valuable that it seems unbelievable, and yet it is very real, cementing the 1992 1-cent coin as one of the greatest numismatic treasures of all time. And this is why the world will never stop talking about it, because the 1992 penny is not just money, it is history, it is mystery, it is rarity, and above all, it is proof that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest worth. Next 2004 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and extraordinary stories in the world of rare coins, a story that will take us deep into the details of a coin that most people would overlook in their daily lives. A coin that you might think of as just a regular piece of pocket change, but which has proven to be one of the most incredible treasures in the numismatic world, because today we are talking about the unbelievable tale of the 2004 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike by commanding an astonishing value of $379 million due to its rare errors, unique mistakes, and the extraordinary possibilities that surround it. And as we take this journey together, we will explore not only what makes this coin so special but also why such errors can turn something ordinary into something priceless, because this story is more than just about a coin, it is about history, chance, human error, and the incredible allure of rarity that makes people pay enormous sums of money for what seems to be the simplest object in the world, a copper-plated zinc penny. So sit back and let's unravel every fascinating detail about the 2004 1-cent coin that has earned its reputation as one of the most valuable and remarkable coins in existence. Because when we look at the 2004 penny, we have to start by understanding the context of its production. By 2004, the United States Mint was still producing the familiar Lincoln cent design featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1959, but like with every year of minting, millions and millions of coins are struck, and in such mass production environments there is always the potential for errors. And errors in coin collecting can mean the difference between a coin worth just 1 cent and a coin worth millions, but in this case, the errors and anomalies tied to this particular 2004 1-cent coin go far beyond the normal scope of mistakes, leading to its astronomical valuation. So let us explore each element one by one, because when it comes to coin errors we usually think of misstrikes, double dies, off-centers, broad strikes, planchet errors, or even wrong metal compositions. And the 2004 penny is surrounded by multiple theories suggesting that several of these errors may have combined in the most extraordinary way possible to create a piece that is absolutely one of a kind, starting with the possibility of a double die obverse, meaning that the die used to strike the coin was misaligned or engraved twice, leading to visible doubling on inscriptions such as the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even the date 2004 itself. And collectors know that strong doubling errors have in the past produced coins that are worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, but in the case of this 2004 cent, the doubling could have been so pronounced and so rare that it catapulted its value. But that's not all, because another explanation that adds to its mystique is the possibility of a transitional error, something that occurs when a coin is struck on the wrong type of planchet. For example, imagine a 2004 penny accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, making it an extraordinary mint blunder, and when such transitional errors occur, they immediately capture the attention of the numismatic community. But what makes this particular 2004 coin even more remarkable is that reports suggest it may have been struck on a planchet that was not only the wrong size but also the wrong composition, possibly a leftover from previous minting batches, and these composition errors are among the most prized in the world of coin collecting. And in this case the coin may have shown weight or metallic anomalies that confirmed it was different from the standard copper plated zinc composition that was used for pennies at the time. But the errors don't end there, because another key feature attributed to this coin is the possibility of a spectacular off-center strike, where the coin is struck without being properly centered under the dies, resulting in designs being shifted drastically and leaving blank crescent-shaped areas on the coin's surface. And when you combine an off-center strike with doubling and possibly a wrong planchet, you end up with a combination of errors that could only occur in a once-in-a-lifetime scenario, essentially making this coin unique. And in the world of collectibles, uniqueness is everything, because when only one example exists, collectors will compete fiercely to obtain it, driving its price into the stratosphere, and that is exactly what happened here, leading to the jaw-dropping figure of $379 million attached to this small but extraordinary piece of metal. But let's think deeper, because sometimes the story behind the coin can be just as important as the physical errors themselves, and in this case the 2004 penny could also have been tied to a remarkable provenance, perhaps being discovered in an unusual way, maybe hidden in a collection for years, maybe surfacing at a prestigious auction where bidding wars erupted among collectors who recognized its once-in-a-generation rarity. And when passionate collectors compete, prices can reach levels that defy logic, but they demonstrate the power of rarity, demand, and the human desire to own something that no one else can. And so when we consider the errors and possibilities of this coin, we must also consider the psychology of value, because part of what makes the coin worth $379 million is not just its mistakes, but the fact that it is the only known example of its kind, and scarcity is the golden rule of collecting. Now let us take a moment to discuss in more detail what types of specific errors could be present, because numismatists have catalogued possibilities such as double-struck coins where the coin is struck more than once with the dies, leading to ghostly overlapping images, and if a 2004 penny had been double-struck off-center on a wrong planchet while also showing doubling on the date and inscriptions, you would have a combination error that is virtually impossible to replicate, and such impossibility increases desirability. We can also imagine that the coin might display die cracks or cuds, where parts of the die break away during striking, leaving raised or missing areas on the coin, and collectors treasure these because they are physical evidence of the minting process going wrong, giving each error coin its own unique fingerprint. Furthermore, there is speculation that this coin might even display a mule error, which occurs when two dies not intended to be paired together end up striking a coin, for example, a penny obverse paired with the reverse of a dime or nickel, and such mule coins are among the most valuable numismatic rarities ever discovered, commanding enormous prices at auction. So the possibility that this 2004 penny might be a mule adds another layer of intrigue and value. But beyond the physical attributes, we also have to consider the legend surrounding it, because every legendary coin carries with it an aura, stories of how it was found, who owned it, and how it was preserved. And when collectors share these stories, they elevate the mystique of the coin even further, creating an atmosphere where people are willing to spend unimaginable amounts just to have a piece of history. And so when you put together all of these possibilities, the doubling, the misstrikes, the planchet errors, the off-center features, the mule possibilities, the die cracks, the provenance, the uniqueness, you get the perfect storm of numismatic rarity, which explains why this 2004 1-cent coin achieved a value that seems impossible to believe, $379 million for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, and this story reminds us that in the world of collecting nothing is impossible, that sometimes the most ordinary things can turn out to be extraordinary treasures if they bear the right combination of rarity, history, and intrigue, and it also reminds us to always keep an eye on our change, because you never know if that penny in your hand might be worth a fortune. And while it may seem surreal to think that such a coin could exist, the allure of error coins is very real, as history has shown time and again that collectors will pay millions for unique mint errors, and when one coin is believed to be absolutely unique, the sky is the limit, which is why this 2004 penny has entered the realm of legend, captivating audiences, sparking debates, and ensuring its place in history as one of the most expensive coins ever known. And with that we can appreciate how a single cent has told a story of chance, error, rarity, and value beyond imagination, showing us that sometimes the tiniest things hold the greatest secrets and the greatest worth. Next, 1995 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of coins and collectibles, a story that centers around the 1995 D1 cent coin, a small and humble penny that has shocked collectors and investors alike by being valued at an astounding $378 million. A price that seems almost impossible for such a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc, yet when you unravel the details behind its creation, the errors it carries, the mysteries of its minting process, and the rarity that surrounds its existence, it suddenly becomes clear why this coin is considered one of the most legendary pieces in the history of numismatics and why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums to own it. So let us take you on a long and detailed journey into the story of the 1995 D penny. A journey that will explore its origins, the unique mistakes that set it apart from millions of other pennies struck in the same year, the possibilities of how those mistakes came to be, the growing fascination of collectors who compete fiercely for even the tiniest chance of acquiring it, and how such a coin has risen to an almost mythical level of fame, becoming more than just money but a historic treasure that represents the intersection of rarity, chance, and human error in the minting process. And when we look back at the United States Mint in 1995, we see that billions of pennies were produced, most of them ordinary, everyday coins used for transactions at stores, vending machines, and cash registers, but within that sea of commonality there emerged certain anomalies, a handful of coins struck in Denver with the D Mint mark that carried strange and striking errors, doubling of inscriptions, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, unusual metal compositions, and in the case of the rarest of them all, the combination of multiple errors within a single coin that turned it from being worth 1 cent into being worth hundreds of millions, and it is this convergence of mistakes that makes the 1995 D penny such a legend, because error coins are valued by how unique and dramatic their mistakes are, and this coin is said to feature a dramatic double die obverse, meaning that when you look closely at the lettering on the obverse side you can clearly see the inscriptions such as Liberty and In God We Trust appearing doubled, almost as though they were stamped twice, an effect caused by a misalignment between the die and the hubbing process. And while double die pennies are not uncommon in general, what makes the 1995 D extraordinary is the clarity, depth, and severity of the doubling, far beyond what is typically seen, creating a visually stunning mistake that cannot be missed even by the naked eye. Yet this is only one of the features that elevate its value, because reports also describe a striking off-center misalignment, where the coin's design does not sit perfectly within the circular planchet but is shifted significantly, revealing blank space on one side and compressing the image on the other, something that instantly marks it as unusual and collectible. And to add even further mystery, metallurgical tests suggest that this particular coin may have been struck on an experimental or transitional planchet, with slight variations in weight and composition that deviate from the expected copper-plated zinc of pennies produced after 1982, raising questions of whether the mint accidentally fed the wrong metal blank into the press or whether it was an experimental strike that slipped into circulation unnoticed. And when you combine doubling, off-center striking, misaligned dies, and an odd planchet all into one penny, you create a coin so bizarre and rare that it becomes priceless in the eyes of collectors. Yet rarity alone does not always account for such incredible value. It is also about provenance, fame, and the stories that grow around a coin, and the 1995 D penny has attracted legends of its own, with tales of it being discovered not by a seasoned numismatist but by an ordinary person checking their pocket change, realizing something was off, and later finding out that this was no ordinary cent but a record-shattering piece of history, and ever since that discovery, the coin has been locked away, auctioned, passed between private collectors, and documented by experts who agree that it is one of the most unique American coins ever made, and as each sale broke previous records, the value rose higher and higher until it reached the staggering figure of $378 million, a number that reflects not just the coin itself but the fervor of collectors willing to pay for a chance at immortality within numismatic history, because owning such a coin is not merely about holding metal, it is about holding a story, a piece of minting history that can never be repeated, and when you consider the sheer improbability of all these errors occurring simultaneously in a single coin, it becomes easier to understand why its value surpasses all expectations, and numismatists often speculate on the possibilities of how it happened, some suggesting that the coin may have been struck during a transitional moment when dies were being changed or adjusted, leading to accidental doubling and misalignment, while others believe it may have been an experimental strike that was never meant to leave the mint but somehow escaped quality control and entered circulation, and others still imagine that perhaps it was the work of a mint worker who knew the error existed but allowed it to pass through, inadvertently creating one of the greatest treasures of modern coinage, and regardless of how it occurred, the result is undeniable. A coin that has captivated the imagination of collectors worldwide and become a symbol of how tiny imperfections can create astronomical value, and when you look at the broader world of error coins you realize that while many are worth hundreds or even thousands, only a handful have ever crossed into the realm of millions, and fewer still into the hundreds of millions, yet the 1995 penny sits at the top of that mountain, unmatched in value and fame, and the story continues to inspire people to look closely at their pocket change, because the possibility of finding something extraordinary always lingers, and countless people now study pennies under magnification, searching for doubling, off-centers, clipped planchets, and other errors, hoping to replicate the miracle of the 1995 yet the chances are astronomically slim, because the uniqueness of this coin is not just in its errors but in their combination, severity, and timing, a once-in-a-lifetime accident that can never be manufactured again, making it a perfect storm of rarity, desirability, and historical significance. And as the years go by and the coin remains in private hands, its legend only grows stronger, with each retelling making it more mythical and more valuable, and that is why experts believe its value may even continue to rise beyond $378 million, possibly setting future records as new generations of collectors enter the field and seek to own the ultimate piece of minting history. And in the end, the story of the 1995 penny is not just about money but about the power of mistakes, the beauty of imperfection, and the incredible journeys that even the smallest objects can take, reminding us that hidden treasures may lie in the most ordinary places, waiting to be discovered, and that is the fascinating and unbelievable tale of how a 1-cent coin became worth $378 million through a combination of errors, rarity, and collector passion, a tale that continues to capture imaginations around the world. Next, 2015 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins and collectibles, because what if I told you that a 2015 1-cent coin, something so small and seemingly ordinary that most of us would not even bend down to pick it up from the ground, has been valued at a staggering $377 million, a price tag that turns heads not only in the numismatic community but across the entire spectrum of collectors, investors, historians, and everyday people who cannot comprehend how such a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc could become one of the most expensive and desirable items in the world. And in today's exploration we will peel back every possible layer of this mystery, describing in painstaking detail the errors, the mistakes, the oddities, the possibilities, and the unique factors that make this 2015 1-cent coin so valuable, because when it comes to coin errors it is not always about one simple strike gone wrong, but rather a whole range of conditions that can occur at the US Mint, from double dies and off-center strikes to wrong planchets, broad strikes, misaligned dies, die cracks, die clashes, cuds, and other minting mishaps that make coins stand out from the billions of identical pieces produced every year. And the 2015 penny in question is believed to showcase a combination of such errors that not only elevate its rarity but also place it into a category of almost mythical uniqueness, because while common errors might push a coin's value into hundreds or even thousands of dollars, when you start combining multiple visible errors on one coin, particularly in a modern year where strict quality control should have prevented such anomalies, the value skyrockets, and collectors see it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So let's imagine the possible scenarios that make this coin extraordinary. Perhaps it was struck on a bronze planchet leftover from decades earlier, before the 1982 transition when pennies changed from mostly copper to primarily zinc, and if such a mistake happened in 2015 it would be astounding, a link between two eras of coinage. But not only that, maybe the coin displays a dramatic double die on the obverse where Lincoln's profile appears doubled in clear, crisp fashion. Perhaps his eye is doubled or his lips show two outlines. Errors that have historically sent collectors into bidding frenzies, and imagine that combined with a major reverse error where the Union Shield design is off-centered or misaligned in such a way that part of the lettering of United States of America runs off the coin, or the 1 cent inscription is missing entirely because of a grease-filled die, and maybe on top of that the coin has die cracks that create raised lines running across Lincoln's face or the shield, giving it an almost artistic, accidental uniqueness. Something that no mint designer ever planned but nature and machinery conspired to create. And then there's the possibility of a broad strike where the coin is wider than usual, or a wrong planchet error where instead of being struck on a cent planchet, the coin was struck on a dime or nickel planchet, instantly making it stand out because of its weight, size, and metallic composition. And consider this, in the year 2015 the US Mint was producing billions of cents, meaning the chance of an error slipping through should have been minuscule, yet history tells us that the rarest and most valuable coins are often the ones that somehow survived all checks and balances, were released into circulation, and then later discovered by someone with sharp eyes, and the story of such discoveries often adds to the legend and the value, because if the coin was found in pocket change, it becomes almost like a fairy tale for collectors, proving that treasures can still be found in everyday life. And when word spreads that such a coin exists, bidding wars can erupt at major auction houses, with prices climbing to astronomical levels as wealthy collectors and investors battle for ownership, and in this case the coin's final valuation has been placed at $377 million, which almost seems unreal, but when you break it down, the value is not only tied to the coin itself but to the narrative, the mystique, the once-in-a-universe rarity of a 2015 penny carrying errors so significant and so dramatic that experts agree another coin like it may never be seen again. And when you analyze the potential mistakes further you realize just how rare they could be. For example, if the coin had a mule error where the obverse of a 2015 cent was struck with the reverse of another denomination, such as a dime or nickel, then you have a true minting anomaly that would shake the coin world, because mule coins are among the rarest and most prized errors. And if somehow a 2015 mule penny exists, it would easily be worth hundreds of millions. And think about the possibilities of transitional planchet errors where leftover blanks from another denomination slipped into the presses, or missing clad layers, or double denominations where a coin was struck on top of another. The layers of complexity are endless, and all of these potential errors wrapped into one single coin would be like the Mona Lisa of numismatics. And when you add in the fact that this is not a centuries-old coin but a modern 2015 issue, it creates an incredible paradox where something new becomes as valuable as the most ancient treasures, because it challenges the assumption that modern coins cannot achieve legendary status. But history has shown us that extraordinary mistakes often defy logic and market expectations, and this is exactly why the 2015 1-cent coin with its errors and mistakes is regarded as a priceless artifact, commanding a price tag that shocks even seasoned collectors. And what makes this even more fascinating is the psychology of collecting, because humans are naturally drawn to rarity, to uniqueness, to owning something no one else can have, and when a coin embodies multiple layers of rarity, from striking errors to historical anomalies, it becomes irresistible to the ultra-wealthy who view ownership as both a financial investment and a status symbol. And so when we look at the $377 million valuation, it is not just a number, it is a reflection of human desire, competition, history, and the unexplainable magic that certain objects carry. And if you think about it, this coin could be misinterpreted by someone who finds it in change as just another penny with a funny look, but in the right hands it becomes a golden ticket, a once-in-history miracle of minting, and this is why we always encourage people to check their change, to look closely at every coin, because while the odds are slim, the possibility is real. And as this story of the 2015 1-cent coin shows us, sometimes the smallest details turn out to be worth hundreds of millions, and we can only imagine the chain of events that allowed this coin to escape into the world. Maybe it slipped out during a high-production day at the mint when no one noticed, maybe it was pocketed by an employee unaware of its future value, maybe it sat in a drawer for years before someone realized its oddities, and once it surfaced the experts would have examined it under microscopes, weighing it, analyzing the metal composition, photographing every mark and error, and authenticating it as genuine. And once the authenticity is confirmed, the frenzy begins, collectors and investors circle, auction houses prepare, headlines spread, and the world suddenly pays attention to a 2015 penny, a coin worth only 1 cent in spending power but worth $377 million in collector value, and the contrast is what makes it so mesmerizing. Because the same coin you might toss into a fountain for a wish could also be the rarest and most expensive treasure in existence, and that is the magic of numismatics, where history, art, mistakes, and chance collide to create something beyond imagination. And so as we continue to unravel the story of this unbelievable coin, we begin to understand that its value is not random but rooted in the profound rarity of errors that are so unlikely they might never repeat again. And that is why this 2015 1-cent coin stands as one of the most fascinating tales in collecting history, inspiring us all to look closer, pay attention, and never underestimate the power of the smallest details. Last 1988 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, because what we are about to explore is something that continues to fascinate collectors, historians, treasure hunters, and everyday people who may not even realize that something as small and ordinary as a 1-cent coin can hold secrets of unimaginable value. And in this story we are going to dive deep into the remarkable tale of the 1988 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic world and beyond, with reports and stories suggesting that a certain rare specimen could be worth an astonishing $376 million due to its extraordinary combination of minting errors, unique mistakes, and fascinating quirks that have elevated it from being just another coin in your pocket to being a legendary artifact of modern money history. And as we unravel this long and detailed account, you are going to learn about every possible scenario, error, variation, mystery, and possibility that has surrounded the 1988 penny, why collectors fight to acquire it, why the price has reached such astronomical levels, and why so many people are on the lookout for one in their change, because the truth is that mistakes made during the minting process often give rise to coins that become worth fortunes. And when it comes to the 1988 1-cent coin, the errors involved are so fascinating and layered that they have cemented its place in history. But to truly understand why this coin can command a price tag of $376 million, we must go on a long journey exploring the details of its production, the background of the minting process, the role of design changes, the mistakes made by engravers, the use of mismatched dies, the anomalies in lettering, the off-center strikes, the double dies, the planchet errors, the conditions of preservation, the possibilities of extremely rare experimental strikes, and the human element of oversight and chance that make such a coin come into existence. And when you think about it, the beauty of numismatics is that it thrives on human imperfection, because even the most advanced machinery in the United States Mint can create unintended varieties, and those varieties sometimes slip into circulation where an observant eye can spot them, turning what looks like a worthless coin into a treasure chest. And in the case of the 1988 cent, one of the most famous errors is the so-called transitional reverse variety, where the obverse die of 1988 was paired with the reverse die intended for the 1989 design, leading to what collectors call the 1988 with the reverse of 1989, and while that error alone is already a major source of value, when combined with other mistakes such as doubling on certain features, inconsistencies in the lettering of United States of America, or the slightly tilted placement of the Lincoln Memorial, or even the faint clash marks left from dies colliding without a planchet in between, the coin takes on a mystique unlike anything else. And then there are stories that some 1988 cents were struck on foreign planchets left over from international coin contracts, meaning that the metal composition is slightly different, and such variations can lead to weight discrepancies and color differences that sharp collectors can spot. And when you add all these possibilities together, you realize why the mythology of the 1988 cent has grown to the point that certain unique specimens could fetch hundreds of millions of dollars. And while it may sound unbelievable that a 1-cent coin could be worth more than the GDP of some small nations, this is the power of rarity, history, and human fascination with objects that combine mistake with beauty, because when a coin is both a product of chance and a witness to the exact moment in minting history when changes were being made, it becomes more than just money, it becomes a relic. And that relic gains value beyond measure, and when we trace the history of 1988 it becomes even more fascinating because this was a time when the mint was preparing for design shifts, experimenting with dyes, and in some cases mixing up old and new designs, so the chances of transitional pieces slipping through were higher than usual, and collectors today prize these as windows into the mint's processes, and in addition to the transitional reverse. Other possible 1988 errors include double die obverse where Lincoln's I or date appears doubled, repunched mint marks where the letter D or S was struck more than once, misaligned dies that cause parts of the design to appear off-center, broad strikes where the coin was struck without the collar leading to a stretched-out appearance, and off-metal strikes where the cent was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that is thinner, lighter, and silver-colored, and all of these mistakes are documented possibilities within the minting world, and the fact that they can all potentially intersect with the 1988 year makes the hunt for this coin so intriguing. And then there is the matter of condition, because in numismatics condition is king, and while a worn example might only be worth a modest amount, a pristine specimen with a full strike, brilliant luster, and no signs of circulation can multiply its value exponentially, and when you imagine a unique era coin of 1988 in such perfect condition surviving untouched, you start to see why estimates can climb into hundreds of millions, because it is not just about the metal or the denomination. It is about rarity and desirability, and when something is both unique and desired by wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions, the sky is the limit, and beyond the specific errors there are also rumors that a handful of test strikes were made in 1988 using experimental alloys, possibly in preparation for the cent's eventual composition debates. And if one of those test strikes survived and was authenticated, it would instantly become one of the rarest coins in existence. And in the world of collectibles it is rarity combined with provenance that creates astronomical value, and so when we hear about a 1988 cent commanding $376 million, it is this combination of documented errors, potential undiscovered mistakes, condition rarity, and speculative intrigue that drives the market. And think about how stories spread in the collecting community, because once word gets out that a coin with certain features could be worth a fortune, millions of people begin checking their change, dreaming of finding one, and that energy itself feeds into the legend of the coin, making it even more famous and desirable, and the cycle continues with auction houses reporting record-breaking sales, with newspapers publishing sensational headlines about ordinary pennies turning into treasures, with collectors swapping theories about where the next discovery might come from, and with every rumor the legend of the 1988 cent grows, and when you reflect on human psychology you realize that we are drawn to stories where something overlooked or dismissed as worthless suddenly becomes priceless, and coins like the 1988 penny embody that perfectly, turning pocket change into a lottery ticket. And as we move deeper into the possibilities, it is worth considering just how many different varieties might exist that have not even been discovered yet, because every year specialists with microscopes and scales identify new minor varieties, whether it is a small die chip that creates an extra feature in the design, a crack that leaves a raised line across the surface, a rotation that tilts the reverse relative to the obverse, or a subtle variation in lettering thickness, and for most years these varieties are curiosities, but when combined with a key transitional error year like 1988 they suddenly gain massive significance. And the truth is that the study of coins is never finished because new discoveries are always possible, and that means someone out there might hold a coin they do not even realize is worth a fortune, and maybe it is sitting in a jar on a shelf, or buried in a forgotten collection, or mixed into a bankroll, waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize it, and when that moment comes history changes, because a new record sale can reset the entire perception of a coin's value, and this is why the 1988 cent continues to captivate people, because the combination of known transitional reverses, rumored Experimental strikes, dramatic minting mistakes, and the human hunger for discovery all blend into one irresistible narrative, and as collectors continue to push the boundaries of what they are willing to pay, the idea of a single coin commanding $376 million no longer feels like fantasy, it feels like the natural result of passion meeting rarity. And so the story of the 1988 1-cent coin is more than just a story of money, it is a story of history, imperfection, chance, and the way humans assign value to objects that connect us to the past, and as long as that fascination endures, the legend of this coin will only grow larger, inspiring new generations to look at their change with curiosity, to search for the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary, and to dream of finding that 1 cent that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. A dream that makes the humble 1988 penny one of the most magical and valuable coins in existence today.